There's a kind of silence most people never discover. Not the silence of an empty room, but the silence that lives beneath your thoughts, waiting. It's there right now, if you listen closely enough. Between the noise of what you should be doing and who you think you should be, there's a stillness that asks nothing of you. This is where peace lives. Not in the achievement of it, but in the remembering. You've been searching, haven't you? Scrolling through advice, reading books on happiness, trying meditation apps at 3 in the morning when sleep won't come. And something still feels just slightly out of reach. Like you're doing everything right but missing something essential. What if I told you that the searching itself is what keeps peace at bay? What if the thing you're looking for has been with you all along, buried under layers of noise you've mistaken for living? I've spent years studying ancient philosophy, sitting with the Stoics and the Buddhists, the existentialists and the mystics. But more than that, I've lived through the same restlessness you feel. The same 3 a.m. anxiety spirals. The same exhaustion that comes from trying to be calm. And what I've learned isn't complicated. It's almost embarrassingly simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. And that's where most people get lost. Peace is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of yourself. Remember that. We'll return to it. Because everything we explore together comes back to this one truth. Let me tell you about a morning I'll never forget. I was walking through a forest just after dawn, the kind of morning where mist hangs low and everything feels suspended in time. I'd been carrying something heavy for months. A decision I couldn't make, a relationship that was ending, the pressure of a life that looked successful but felt hollow. And I was tired. So tired of thinking about it, analyzing it, trying to fix it. I stopped walking and just stood there among the trees, and for the first time in months, I didn't try to solve anything. I just let myself be heavy. And something shifted. Not dramatically. There was no thunderbolt of clarity. But in that moment of stopping, of not trying to be anywhere other than where I was, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Not happiness exactly. The kind that doesn't require circumstances to change. The kind that lives in acceptance rather than achievement. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius, who had every reason to be anxious, an emperor dealing with plagues and wars and betrayals, wrote in his private journals about the power of acceptance. He called it amor fati, love of fate. Not passive resignation, but an active embrace of what is. Because resistance to reality is where suffering begins. Not in the reality itself, but in our insistence that it should be different. You know this feeling. You're stuck in traffic and you can feel your whole body tensing, your mind spinning stories about being late, about how this always happens to you, about how the universe is against you. But the traffic doesn't care about your resistance. It simply is. And in that resistance, you're choosing suffering. Not because you're weak or doing it wrong, but because no one taught you that peace is a practice of recognition, not control. Here's the first truth they don't teach you. You cannot think your way to peace. You've tried, haven't you? Analyzing your anxiety, understanding your patterns, reading about mindfulness and presence and living in the now. And it helps, to a point. But peace isn't something you figure out. It's something you feel. It lives in your body, not your mind. When you're anxious, where does it sit? Your chest? Your throat? That knot in your stomach that tightens every Sunday evening before the work week begins? Your body knows things your mind hasn't caught up to yet. It knows when you're safe but pretending not to be. It knows when you're exhausted but performing energy. It knows when you need to stop, but you keep going because stopping feels like failure. So here's what I'm inviting you to do right now. Feel your body. Notice where you're holding tension. Your shoulders? Your jaw? Don't try to fix it. Just notice it. Breathe into it. This is where peace begins, not in understanding but in feeling. The second truth, loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the absence of yourself. I learned this the hard way. I used to fill every moment with noise, podcasts, music, conversations, scrolling, anything to avoid the silence. Because in the silence, I had to face myself. And honestly, I didn't like what I found there. The disappointments, the shame, the voice that said I wasn't enough, would never be enough, was falling behind while everyone else figured it out. But here's what I discovered when I finally stopped running. That voice? It wasn't me. It was every expectation I'd ever absorbed, every comparison I'd made, every time someone told me who I should be instead of discovering who I am. Solitude became the place where I could separate my voice from the noise. And in that separation, I found something unexpected. I found that beneath all the criticism and fear, there was a quiet presence that had been waiting patiently all along. The real me, not the performing version, not the achieving version, but the one who exists whether or not anyone is watching. There's an old Zen story about a monk who spent years meditating, seeking enlightenment, trying to quiet his mind. One day his teacher asked him, "Who is it that's trying to become enlightened?" And the monk realized, the one seeking was already whole. The search itself was the obstacle. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. Let that settle for a moment. Close your eyes if you can. Take 3 breaths. Feel the difference between thinking and being. The thoughts will come, they always do. But you don't have to be swept away by them. You can watch them pass like clouds across a sky that remains unchanged. The third truth, peace requires letting go of the life you thought you'd have by now. This one hurts, doesn't it? Because you had plans, timelines, a vision of who you'd be at this age, what you'd have accomplished, where you'd be living, who you'd be with. And reality hasn't matched the blueprint. Maybe you're behind. Maybe you chose wrong. Maybe life happened and the path you thought you were on disappeared beneath your feet. I see you comparing yourself to everyone else. The highlight reels on social media, the friends who seem to have it figured out, the younger colleagues moving faster, the people your age buying houses and getting married and having babies while you're still trying to figure out who you are. And every comparison is a small violence against yourself, a rejection of your own path. A message that says, this life, your life, isn't good enough. But here's what the philosophers understood that we've forgotten. There is no behind or ahead. There's only here. Your life, with all its detours and delays and unexpected turns, has brought you exactly where you need to be. Not because everything happens for a reason, that's a convenient lie we tell ourselves to avoid feeling pain. But because this moment, this life, is the only one you have. And you can spend it in resistance, or you can spend it in recognition. Lao Tzu wrote about Wu Wei, effortless action, the art of non-striving. Not doing nothing but doing what's natural rather than forced. Like water flowing around rocks instead of trying to push through them. You've been pushing, haven't you? Trying so hard to be peaceful that the trying itself becomes exhausting. Forcing gratitude when you feel empty. Performing happiness when you're barely holding on. Meditating with clenched fists, determined to achieve calm. Peace is not something you achieve. It's something you allow. And that's the fourth truth. The moment you stop trying so hard to find peace is when peace finds you. It's a paradox, I know. How can you stop trying without giving up? But there's a difference between surrender and resignation. Resignation says, nothing matters, why bother? Surrender says, I've done what I can, now I trust what is. Think about falling asleep. You can't force it. The harder you try, the more elusive it becomes. But when you finally let go, when you stop trying to control it, sleep arrives. Peace works the same way. It comes in the gaps between effort, in the pause before you reach for your phone, in the moment you stop planning and just exist, in the breath between thinking and being. I want you to notice something right now. Where are you holding on too tightly? What are you gripping that you don't need to carry? Is it a relationship that's already over but you won't admit it? A job that's draining you but feels too scary to leave? An identity you've outgrown but can't imagine releasing? A version of yourself you think you should be? Your hands are full, and that's why peace can't land. To receive, you must first release. The fifth truth, your anxiety isn't a flaw. It's a messenger you've been ignoring. For years, I treated my anxiety like an enemy. Something to fix, medicate, manage, overcome. I tried breathing exercises and positive thinking and all the tools they give you. And sometimes they helped. But the anxiety always returned. Because I was treating the symptom instead of listening to the message. Your body is wise. When your chest tightens and your heart races and your mind won't stop spinning, it's trying to tell you something. Maybe that you're living in a way that doesn't honor who you are. Maybe that you're ignoring needs you've labeled as selfish. Maybe that you're so busy performing that you've forgotten how to simply be. The anxiety isn't the problem. The life that requires you to override your own signals, that's the problem. What if you stopped trying to get rid of the anxiety and started asking it questions? What are you trying to tell me? What do I need that I'm not giving myself? What boundary have I failed to set? What truth am I avoiding? I know this sounds simple, maybe even naive, but I've watched this shift transform people. Not because the circumstances changed, but because the relationship to the circumstances changed. Because they stopped fighting themselves and started listening. Peace is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of yourself. There it is again. That phrase we keep returning to. Because every truth I'm sharing circles back to this central recognition: you cannot find peace outside yourself. Not in a perfect relationship, not in a better job, not in a different body or a bigger bank account or a quieter mind. Peace lives in the acceptance of what is, including yourself. Especially yourself. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's not real, but she's also completely real, a composite of so many people I've known, including past versions of myself. Sarah is 34 and successful by every external measure. Good job, nice apartment, friends who love her, a life that looks enviable on Instagram. But every night she lies awake feeling empty. Not sad exactly, just hollow. Like she's performing a role in someone else's life. She keeps thinking if she just achieves the next thing, the promotion, the relationship, the perfect morning routine, she'll finally feel whole. But each achievement brings only temporary relief before the emptiness returns. And here's what Sarah doesn't understand yet. The emptiness isn't a problem to solve. It's a doorway, an invitation to stop performing and start being. To release the manufactured version of herself and meet the real one. The one who's been waiting patiently beneath all the doing. The sixth truth. Most of your suffering comes from resisting what already is. You know this feeling. Something happens, a rejection, a disappointment, a loss, and your mind immediately goes to work. This shouldn't have happened. It's not fair. If only I had done things differently. And in that resistance, in that argument with reality, you create a second layer of suffering. The pain of the event itself, and the pain of wishing it were different. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. There are things you can control, your actions, your choices, your responses. And there are things you can't, other people's choices, outcomes, the randomness of life. Most people spend their energy fighting what they can't control while neglecting what they can. And this is the source of endless suffering. Not because life is hard, but because we exhaust ourselves arguing with reality. Imagine you're holding a hot coal. You can feel it burning your hand. Now imagine I told you that if you just think positive thoughts, the coal will stop hurting. Or that if you understand why the coal is hot, the pain will disappear. Or that if you just accept the coal better, it won't burn. Ridiculous, right? You drop the coal. But this is what we do with emotional pain. We hold on to it, analyzing it, justifying it, replaying it, and wonder why it keeps hurting. Sometimes peace is as simple as opening your hand. I'll give you a moment here. Breathe. Feel this. What are you holding that you could release? What argument with reality are you still having that you could simply stop? Not because you're giving up, but because the fighting is more painful than the acceptance. The seventh truth. Silence is not empty. It's full of everything you've been avoiding. This is why most people fear it. Why we fill every moment with sound, music, podcasts, television, the constant scroll of other people's lives. Because in silence, we have to face ourselves. The regrets we've been outrunning. The grief we've been postponing. The questions we've been too afraid to ask. Who am I really? What do I actually want? Am I living a life that's mine, or one I think I should want? But here's the gift hidden in that fear. On the other side of the avoidance is everything you've been looking for. Not answers necessarily, but a quality of presence that makes the questions less urgent. A sense of groundedness that doesn't depend on external validation. A quiet knowing that you're exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. I started sitting in silence for 10 minutes every morning. Not meditating in the formal sense. Just sitting, feeling, noticing. And at first, it was excruciating. My mind would race with to-do lists and worries and judgments about how I was doing it wrong. But gradually, something shifted. The thoughts didn't stop, but I stopped believing them so completely. I started to recognize the patterns, the same anxious stories on repeat, the same criticisms, the same fears. And in that recognition, they lost some of their power. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. There's our refrain again. Because this is the practice of peace, not getting rid of thoughts, but changing your relationship to them. Watching them arise and pass without grabbing onto them or pushing them away. Like standing by a river, watching the current flow by, knowing you don't have to jump in. The eighth truth, peace is not a destination. It's a way of traveling. This might be the hardest one to accept, because you want to arrive. You want to reach a state where anxiety doesn't visit anymore, where doubt doesn't creep in, where you're finally, permanently at peace. But that's not how it works. Peace is a practice, not a permanent state. It's something you return to again and again, not something you achieve once and keep forever. Think of it like physical fitness. You don't go to the gym once and stay fit for life. You practice. You return. You strengthen. Peace is the same. Every day offers opportunities to choose presence over distraction, acceptance over resistance, stillness over chaos. And some days you'll choose well. Other days you'll forget completely, get swept up in the urgency and anxiety and performance, and that's okay. The practice isn't perfection. It's returning. Every time you notice you've drifted and bring yourself back, that's peace. Every time you feel anxiety rising and pause to breathe instead of immediately reacting, that's peace. Every time you catch yourself comparing and choose self-compassion instead, that's peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of awareness in the middle of it. There's a modern tendency to treat inner peace like a productivity goal. Something to optimize and achieve and check off the list. We want the app, the system, the 5-step formula that guarantees results. But peace isn't efficient. It's not measurable. It doesn't care about your timeline or your progress tracker. It emerges naturally when you stop trying to force it and start simply being with what is. The ninth truth, you don't need to earn the right to rest. This one lands differently depending on where you are in your journey. Because you've been taught that rest is something you deserve only after you've worked hard enough. That peace comes after achievement. That you can relax once you've proven your worth. But here's what that belief creates. A life of endless striving where the finish line keeps moving, where enough is never enough, where you postpone peace indefinitely while waiting for permission that will never come. Your worth is not determined by your productivity. Your value is not measured by your achievements. You are enough right now, in this moment, exactly as you are. Not because you've earned it, simply because you exist. The culture will tell you otherwise. The voices in your head will argue. But deep down, in the quiet place beneath all the noise, you know this is true. You've always known. What would it mean to live from this knowing? To stop proving and start being? To rest not because you've earned it, but because you're human and humans need rest? To choose stillness not as a reward but as a necessity? To stop waiting for permission and simply give it to yourself? I see you carrying so much. The weight of expectations, yours and everyone else's. The burden of who you think you should be. The exhaustion of constant performance. The fear that if you stop pushing, everything will fall apart. But what if the opposite is true? What if the pushing is what's breaking you? What if peace isn't on the other side of more effort, but on the other side of release? Peace is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of yourself. One more time. Because by now, if you've been listening, really listening, this phrase is starting to mean something different than it did at the beginning. It's not just words. It's an invitation to stop abandoning yourself in the pursuit of peace. To recognize that you are the home you've been searching for. The 10th truth. Most people are living lives they don't want because they're afraid of disappointing people they don't like. Think about that for a moment. How many of your choices are driven by fear of judgment from people whose opinions don't actually matter to you? How much of your life is performed for an audience that isn't even watching? How many years will you spend being who you think you should be instead of discovering who you are? This isn't permission to be selfish or cruel. It's recognition that you have one life, and spending it trying to please everyone is the surest way to please no one, including yourself. The people who truly love you want you to be free, not perfect. They want you to be honest, not impressive. And the people who need you to stay small in order to feel comfortable? Those aren't your people. I'm not saying this is easy. Disappointing others, setting boundaries, choosing yourself, these things require courage. But so does continuing to live a life that isn't yours. So does waking up at 40 or 50 or 60 and realizing you spent decades performing someone else's idea of success. At least the courage to choose yourself leads somewhere real. The courage to keep performing leads only to exhaustion. What do you actually want? Not what you think you should want, not what would look good, not what would make sense. What do you want? And I don't mean big abstract things. I mean in your daily life. How do you want to spend your mornings? What kind of work would make you feel alive rather than drained? What relationships deserve your energy? What would you do if no one was watching, if approval wasn't a factor, if you trusted yourself completely? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're invitations to honesty. And honesty is where peace begins. Not in having all the answers, but in being willing to ask the real questions. The 11th truth, peace is not about having a quiet mind. It's about having a spacious one. This is the final piece, and in some ways, the most important. Because if you've been trying to achieve peace by getting rid of your thoughts, you've been fighting a battle you can't win. Thoughts are what minds do. Trying to stop thinking is like trying to stop your heart from beating. It's not the goal. What changes is the space around the thoughts, the awareness that holds them. When your mind is tight and cluttered, every thought feels urgent and true. But when you create spaciousness, through presence, through breath, through the practices we've explored, thoughts can arise without overtaking you. They become like birds flying through a vast sky. Present, but not definitive. Real, but not the whole reality. This spaciousness comes from practice, from the daily return to presence, from the gentle discipline of noticing when you've been swept away and choosing to come back. Not once, but thousands of times. Each return is a victory, even if it doesn't feel like one. Especially if it doesn't feel like one. And here's what I've noticed after years of this practice. The peace stops feeling fragile. It stops being something that depends on perfect circumstances or the absence of problems. It becomes a quality of being that's available even in the midst of chaos. Not because the chaos doesn't affect you, but because you've learned you're larger than any single moment of difficulty. You've touched something in yourself that remains steady even when everything else is moving. You came here searching for something, maybe peace, maybe relief, maybe answers to questions you didn't quite know how to ask. And I hope you found something useful in these words. These truths that took me years to understand and will take a lifetime to fully embody. But more than anything, I hope you've remembered something you already knew. That peace isn't out there. It's in here. In the quiet center of you that exists beneath all the noise and striving and fear. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not doing it wrong. You're human, navigating an increasingly chaotic world, trying to find your way to something real. And that's enough. More than enough. It's everything. So here's my final invitation. Stop searching. Start noticing. The peace you're looking for is already here, in this breath, in this moment, in the simple fact of your existence. You don't need to become someone different to deserve it. You don't need to achieve anything to access it. You simply need to stop, breathe, and recognize what's been here all along. Peace is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of yourself. And you, exactly as you are in this moment, are worthy of that presence, of that peace, of that homecoming to yourself. Sit with this. Breathe with it. And when you're ready, not when you're perfect, but when you're ready, begin. Begin the practice of returning to yourself. Begin the gentle discipline of presence. Begin the radical act of accepting what is, including yourself. Begin now, not because you have to, but because you can. Because the life you've been postponing is waiting, and it starts exactly where you are.